Call of Duty Ghosts is a really interesting game. Not only did it not sell that well when it released, it also had a one-of-a-kind development history behind the game, unlike anything that has ever happened to a Call of Duty game during pre-production. But now it's been 9 years since this game came out, and we were wondering what would happen if we went back and played Call of Duty Ghosts every day for a week, and also make some of our friends join us as well. This was actually quite the experience. Since we don't have a sponsor for this video, we just thought we could remind you guys that you could use code ROCKETSLOTH and order some gamer sups. They're 0 calorie, 0 sugar, but they taste great and they get you through the day. We decided to partner up with gamer sups because we genuinely think that they're the best tasting around. They sell these cool waifu cups. That's it really. I'm not going to waste too much time on it. Think of it as some type of tip jar where you also get something cool in return that directly supports the long form content like this. Now to start things off contextually, I did purchase Call of Duty Ghosts all the way back in 2013. Matter of fact, since I was such a hardcore gamer, I bought it on the Xbox 360 and then I did the $5 upgrade that they offered if you were an Xbox One holder. And I was one of the 12 people who bought an Xbox One in 2013.
TV experience. TV and movies, TV. Xbox. Watch TV.
So going into this, we have to look at both the 360 version and the Xbox One version as well. Day one, we decided to start up on the newer gen version, the Xbox One version, and just kind of dip our toes into Call of Duty a little bit. Surprisingly enough, there are a couple of people still playing Call of Duty Ghosts online. It's not a completely dead game just yet, which is kind of surprising considering how long this game has been out, and also the fact that, yeah, this game, historically speaking, didn't sell as well as something from the Modern Warfare trilogy or the Black Ops games did. And honestly, our first impressions when Luke and I jumped in and played some team deathmatch weren't actually as bad as what we remembered this game having the reputation of. It seemed like a very standard Call of Duty experience, boots on the ground, which is always nice, and the gun loadouts seemed usable, which is always good. The more we played, we would start to notice some nuanced things that maybe weren't the best design choices, but nothing that screamed bad game in quality-wise at the beginning, at least. I did start to make some nice friends here and there who would message me after the games because apparently the Call of Duty Ghosts community is still running strong all this time later. But yeah, for day one, we weren't really trying to overanalyze or overthink things. We just wanted to get a first impression of the game, and it wasn't awful. The maps were kind of fun, the gunplay didn't feel the worst, and one thing I remembered playing this all these years later is that every map in this game actually has some sort of gimmick associated with it, whether it's an earthquake themed map where the map is shaking randomly, or just random things like this door that you can close and then open again, or this gas station that just explodes. But overall, day one wasn't the worst thing. It was a decent first taste of this game, but we would be digging in a lot closer and looking at things in a more analytical approach going into the following days. On day two, I actually took a look back at Call of Duty Ghosts' overall history, which is really unique here. While this game was developed by Infinity Ward, the same creators who made the Modern Warfare trilogy, which, mind you, Modern Warfare 3 was the best-selling Call of Duty game of all time, the shape of Infinity Ward was very different in 2013 compared to what it was back during the Modern Warfare days. Actually, if you look back after Modern Warfare 2, there was a lot of tension between Infinity Ward, the developer of the game, and Activision, the publisher, which resulted in the two founding members of Infinity Ward to depart, and a lot of the staff actually ended up leaving with them. This ended up becoming a massive lawsuit as the team who had worked on Modern Warfare 2 went off to start Respawn Entertainment over at EA, and Activision accused them of poaching their staff and team members, which was against contracts that the staff was under. This meant there was only a portion of a team left to deal with creating and finishing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, and because of that, Activision had to bring in other studios like Sledgehammer Games, who were working on their first ever Call of Duty game, to come help finish up development on Modern Warfare 3. They even had to bring in developers from the company Neversoft to work on the Special Ops mode in Modern Warfare 3 as well, and while Treyarch would lead Call of Duty moving forward the next year with Call of Duty Black Ops 2, Infinity Ward was kind of on its own with a very different looking team, one that included the remaining people that didn't leave to go to EA, and then new hires who were brought on during the time after half of the team departed, to build a Call of Duty game in essentially just 2 years from the ground up that would be a brand new revolutionary experience that also would be the start of a new sub-series, which was expected to be the Ghosts series. Though, while Modern Warfare 3 was a huge success, as they had extra support from Sledgehammer Games, this time around it was all up to the new team and some support from Neversoft as well to fully flesh out this game and have it ready to launch on 2 different consoles. Matter of fact, there was originally plans for a new engine being built for the ground up specifically for this game, though with time constraints it didn't seem like a realistic possibility, so instead they would reuse the Call of Duty engine that had been used in years prior, just making big adjustments to it for the newer hardware. But even then, with the new hardware on the way, the game still struggled to play at 1080p 60 frames per second, was only eligible to play at that performance with a day 1 patch. Otherwise, it was 720p 60 FPS. Knowing what we know now, it is interesting playing on this Call of Duty game, knowing that the earliest concepts for this game originally were probably a little bit bigger in scope. The game was originally supposed to have its own engine, and still, it seems like with those compromises, they still at least made a finished product by the time it was needing to go gold to make it to store shelves. The one thing that Call of Duty Ghosts, though, always got criticized with harshly was that in a lot of cases, the maps were designed differently from a lot of the formulas that were proven successful for multiplayer maps in the older days weren't really used in this game. Instead, a lot of the maps focus on a multi-layered map design that have a lot of intersecting pathways, and in a lot of cases, the maps are absolutely massive compared to some of the tighter popular maps that Call of Duty had had in the past. And this is a fair criticism. While we were playing on day 2, we did notice that in some instances when we were playing certain maps on certain game types, we felt the need to always have to push from our spawn into a location instead of naturally funneling into where all the action is happening in the same way you would on a regular Call of Duty game. Now, we're not the most skilled pro players, and we're not playing in some competitive esports level where this can be a massive make or break moment for a game, but even being able to notice this at the casual level that we play at probably speaks a lot to what happened with the more hardcore fan base in a more frustrating type setting. Actually, there's a lot of rumors and speculation that when this game was in its earliest stages of planning, in attempts to keep up with having these high octane action sequences found in competing games like Battlefield, they considered upping the amount of overall players in each game from the typical 6-on-6 12-player team deathmatch to an upped 9-on-9 18-player team deathmatch, which was already a big team type mode in previous Call of Duties, but that may have been the intention to make it a mainstay back then, which could be one of the reasons why the maps seem so much larger with a lot of empty spaces constantly, because essentially they drew it back to the typical 6-on-6 battle somewhere along the line. But that's just our speculation and our suspicions based on how massive these maps are and just the way that they're built with these weird intersections and choke points in very odd places to have a standard choke point. Nonetheless, we did have a lot of fun on day 2, still just kind of getting more familiar with the game and also paying more attention to the map design and seeing why some of these maps were better than other maps. Like, this map is cool and all, except the water can be really annoying if you drown in the specific spot. I find it really interesting that this map essentially is a remake of Modern Warfare 3's Dome, but then they decided to also remake Modern Warfare 3's Dome in this game. This map just seems way too big for even 9v9 playstyles. I mean, it looks nice, but it's really, really big, and then it also favors camping really badly. And then this map just doesn't have any real lanes to travel across. It's just wide open in the middle, and then there's some choke points on the various sides, and a lot of people just get up in the buildings and try to shoot anyone who dares trying to cross the middle. We also thought it'd be fun that on day 2, we maybe jumped on the Xbox 360 version to try it out, and while graphically speaking, they're actually pretty similar. They're not that drastically different. It seems like maybe the shading is a little bit better on the Xbox One version, but they look very alike. There was one guy who was just hot micing in the game, getting real angry at me for not doing that well.
Yo, Rocket Elijah, you need to leave. You don't know what you're doing.
And then the rest of the evening was spent with him on the other team, and he literally just used noob tubes the entire time and racked up kill streaks and used those. Like, he had it mapped out and planned out. He had it all strategized to a perfection how to get these kill streaks, camp in certain spots, and use noob tubes to get his way there. So it's funny that of all the people to get mad at me, it was this guy. Day 3, we decided to mix things up and we jumped into Extinction Mode. This was Infinity Ward's response to the massive popularity that Call of Duty Zombies had. And literally, I'll just say this based off of our experience in just one evening. I can't speak for replayability, but the first time you experience this game mode, it's actually kind of fun. Essentially, instead of zombies, you have aliens, and for whatever reason, these aliens can shoot back, but you do have create a class, you have money, you have weapons you can buy, and there's a lot of moving pieces and perks and stuff, but it does feel like a natural progression from the survival mode that was found in Modern Warfare 3, and it's kind of mixed with a little bit of a story. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, the story, why you're in this town. There's a giant fire tornado right over there, but no one seems to be concerned about it. But for an objective with your friends that you can get in, try to beat and then get out in one sitting that takes about an hour or so, it wasn't the worst experience. The only big thing that I can see that would have made this mode better would have been easier ways to upgrade your weapons themselves rather than just the perks that you can upgrade along the way, and then maybe something like a random box or something that's more iconically known in the Call of Duty Black Ops series to just kind of add that randomness. And maybe if there was an endless mode that tracked your rounds and stuff like that as well, people would come back and play the mode more than just beating it and never playing it again. But I was pleasantly surprised. I actually thought that the break from zombies being this stereotypical game type in every Call of Duty nowadays was really nice here, actually. And don't get me wrong, I like zombie mode and I like the way that they try to change it from time to time, but sometimes it feels like they make big misses by trying to innovate on zombies, and other times I just want to go back and play the original zombies maps. And it just felt nice playing Ghosts, where it was just something that was trying to be different but still in the same style in one way or another. I don't know, we had fun the night that we played through Extinction. Now, there were more Extinction maps released through DLC that we do get to at a later day during those 7 days that we played Ghosts, but we're already 3 days in and we hadn't even touched the campaign. So part of day 4 was spent starting up the campaign, and oh boy, is this a wild ride. Call of Duty Ghosts really tries to fit into the framework of what made previous Call of Duty campaigns exciting, but it tries really hard to be exciting, to the point where it almost completely takes you out of the story and the realism of many of the situations because of how over the top a lot of the things that are going on really are in the campaign itself. It's kind of like the Fast and Furious franchise, how the more movies they make, the more over the top it keeps getting, to the point where you're like, how? But at the same time, people still watch the movies because they're so action-packed. Ghosts feels like that, and the biggest contrast I can make between Call of Duty Ghosts campaign and something like Modern Warfare 2's campaign is that when you play a Modern Warfare game, you're set up with this premise that you're this elite squadron, you're the best of the best, and you do a couple of operations, typically in a really precise and meticulous manner that shows why your team is such an elite squad. Where in Call of Duty Ghosts, it just feels like constantly something's not going to plan. There's twists and turns every second. There's constant just problems and chaos. Nothing feels like you're a part of an elite squad. It's just a constant barrage of things going the wrong way, always. And it's kind of goofy, but like at the same time, there is a story. It's over the top, but it takes itself seriously enough where you can look past some of the over the topness and just sit back and kind of play this game for its story and still have a good time. There's definitely been Call of Duty campaigns that have come out after Call of Duty Ghosts that are not worth playing, that are not even worth experience. Call of Duty Ghosts doesn't fall into that. If you want a decent campaign to play through, you can find yourself a fun time in Ghosts, but you're gonna find it fun for not the same reasons that the Modern Warfare games are fun. You're gonna find it fun because it's just so hilariously over the top. The dialogue doesn't help too much either.
Dad, this whole time you were one of them. You go.
Try the Ghost!
still, I have to say, some of the set pieces in the campaign are pretty nice. I thought it was kind of cool that they had this whole area in Vegas that they ended up using for part of the story. The story itself, while being over the top, of course, doesn't have any connection to any previous Call of Duty game, despite the name Ghosts being a complete inspiration of the character Ghost from Modern Warfare 2. It instead has its own over-the-top timeline that's separated from everything else. It's not that important, but ultimately, while the story is interesting enough, you can invest some time in it. It ends on a very massive cliffhanger that was supposed to be resolved in Call of Duty Ghosts 2, but that game never ended up happening. So we'll never really figure out what happened here, ever. Apparently, they brought the character Rourke back in Call of Duty Mobile, but that whole timeline is even more confusing than anything that we've seen in a Call of Duty game. I don't know if you've ever looked at Call of Duty Mobile. It is completely wild, the story on there. They have characters like Tank Dempsey teaming up with like Captain Price and Reznov from Call of Duty World at War and Black Ops. Ghost shows up at one point and he's apparently alive, and just there's a lot. There's definitely way too much going on in this timeline, and it's completely over the top. So if you want to have some sort of timeline that has Rourke in it and some more Ghost threads alive, they do happen over there. For day 5, we decided to focus a little bit more in on the multiplayer some more, and this time around kind of look at the different progressions and weapon systems and create a class modes. Interestingly enough, this game only has 9 prestiges because there's 10 different soldiers you pick, so you kind of start on prestige 1, which was different from any other Call of Duty. But instead you have this whole create a soldier thing. You get credits and you can buy perks and weapons and stuff with your credits that you unlock by playing. It's definitely not the worst system ever made, but coming out of the classic Call of Duty Black Ops 2 Pick 10, which was really popular, it's definitely not as smooth as that one was. It is interesting though, playing a Call of Duty that doesn't have an over-the-top cosmetic store constantly being shoved at you, and no loot boxes either. Back during Call of Duty Ghost days, it was one of the last Call of Duties where you could just outright buy things that you wanted for whatever, and it was a cheap price, and it wasn't some rotating store or some bundle that you had to buy. It was just kind of a simple way to do microtransactions. They did some interesting crossovers too, and some interesting designs as well. I remember spending a couple dollars just to get these cats in space because I thought they were funny, and Luke bought the Snoop Dogg thing.
Yo, what it do? It's your boy Big Snoop D-O-double-G.
I think the balancing in this game could use some work. There's the Honey Badger, which is a fun gun, but then there's also the DLC gun, the Ripper, which is just completely overpowered, making the game borderline pay to win. But I bought the gun, so I don't feel as bad when I get killed by it. They did release some really cool DLC maps over the years, bringing back some classic Call of Duty locations, though nowadays if you play the game, you're probably not going to find a match on any DLC maps because the entire population has to have those maps, so you're likely only going to experience them in private matches, but they were cool set pieces at the very least. I do remember them not always feeling like they played correctly, but beggars can't be choosers in this case. They also had interesting maps that had Michael Myers on them, or a Predator from Predator on it. They would be kill streaks in game that players could get exclusively on those maps, which was wild. But like we brought up earlier, honestly, with the way that some of these multiplayer maps flowed, whether they were the greatest DLC maps or not, it didn't help the fact that the base maps were kind of just off a lot of the times, and it just made the overall consistency of getting to play on good maps versus bad maps uneven, and I think that also contributed to a lot of players being driven away from this game, along with the fact that if you look back at it, in 2013, Call of Duty Ghosts wasn't really doing anything massively groundbreaking for its game. It was just a very stereotypical Call of Duty release. It was boots on the ground, much like the Modern Warfare games, but without the Modern Warfare branding that would help it be popular, and also it was coming off of the heels of Black Ops 2, one of the more popular Call of Duty games, so it definitely had a lot to live up to, especially with the fact that Treyarch had a history of making Call of Duty games and have had experience over the years making multiple different games from World at War, Black Ops, and then Black Ops 2, where the people who were working on Ghosts worked on part of Modern Warfare 3 alongside other studios, and then Ghosts was the big game to work on. On day 6, we decided to take a closer look at the other Extinction maps that released, and apparently back in the day, I bought the first 2, and then said nah when it came to DLCs 3 and 4. This time around, it is a little bit different looking at the DLC versions. This first one starts in this snowy area, and this guy gets oofed right away, but outside of the change of location, the first section of this level seems pretty similar to the first Extinction map that had released. You just run around with a drill, you shoot some aliens, and you have a good time. There is a different type of alien that we noticed, this blue guy who vanishes and comes back later. He's kind of annoying. And we were just kind of doing our thing, pushing on through this area. And then after you get the last drill thing completed, this giant boss comes out, and honestly, all hell just breaks loose. There's so many enemies. You're being shot at by the giant thing. It's spawning more enemies. There's acid stuff that you're not supposed to stand in, and we kind of got destroyed. I don't know. I actually remember having a very similar experience to this when this map originally came out all the way back in 2014. It just felt like a lot was going on all of a sudden, and the ramp up in difficulty is very present on this map. We, after this, switched to the other map that we had, which is on a boat this time, and actually the aesthetic of this level is kind of cool. I just like the way we roll up on a boat at the beginning, and to say the least, the first area is a little bit more interesting to drill through. After holding out for a little bit, you can then go to at least a new room and get a little bit of a change of setting and feel like you're actually making progress instead of just being in an open area for a long time. I do remember back in the day having much more fun with this one, as the replayability was just a little bit higher. Even when I lost, I wanted to go back and just try again to see what else there was or what was behind the next room. I didn't have that feeling as much with the first map in the snow area, but this time around when we played, we did progress a little ways in and got to a miniature boss fight with this giant tentacle thing that just rammed through the side of the boat. It was terrifying. It was kind of fun, but we also died and got destroyed. I think Extinction was interesting. Now, we didn't have the other two maps, and there's no sale that ever goes on in Call of Duty Ghosts to make buying and playing the other maps worthwhile with how expensive they are, but it was interesting to see what they were trying to do with these maps. Some were more ambitious than others, but it was an interesting idea with Extinction. I just think the main problem is they just didn't really nail the replayability side of things, where you have that drive to want to come back and do better than before. Maybe the boat level kind of starts to capture those feelings, but as far as the snow level and even the original level were concerned, it just didn't quite capture the same feelings that Zombies had, but it was close. It was on the right track, and maybe if this idea was expanded upon more in the future, it could have really been a mainstay of Call of Duty instead of just a forgotten game mode that not a lot of people think about anymore. And then finally on day 7, we finished up the campaign and also played some more multiplayer. And besides the fact that the campaign ends in one of the most wild and probably unbelievable ways, it did end on a pretty massive cliffhanger that of course would never get resolved because they never made another Call of Duty Ghosts game again. Also, I do think it's really funny that when they initially announced Call of Duty Ghosts, they hyped up the dog Riley as if it was going to be one of the most revolutionary features in a Call of Duty game, and really it's just a small part in a couple of levels, a little side feature. It's not really that integral to the game, but they definitely did hype it up. But ultimately, with this being our last day, we really reflected on the game itself, and honestly, this game was really just set up for failure, not really necessarily because of the game's contents itself. Sure, there were things that could have been done better, but I think more so the fact that this game was a quote-unquote playing it safe Call of Duty game that had to compete against some massive juggernauts in the gaming industry in 2013 definitely hurt this game's overall perception by a lot of people. And I think a mix of Call of Duty having some big burnout, especially after Black Ops 2 being so great, this game definitely struggled competing against other games that came out during that holiday, like Grand Theft Auto 5, which was massive, and then Battlefield 4, which was back when Battlefield was at an all-time highest hype that its franchise had ever seen. Ghost really was just playing it safe, and it wasn't necessarily cutting edge enough to warrant people getting really over-the-top excited about the game. And then when you did buy the game and played it, it more or less played like any of the Call of Duty games from the previous couple of years, maybe even a little bit worse with some design choices. It just felt like a big colossal failure when ultimately the game was still pretty good, just maybe not as perfect as the prime days of Call of Duty. I think it's really worth noting and thinking about that if Call of Duty Ghosts wouldn't have released in 2013, say that for whatever reason, hypothetically, Activision would have just skipped Call of Duty Ghosts and held off for a couple of years, and they continued with the regular plan with Advanced Warfare coming out the next year, followed by Black Ops 3, and then Call of Duty Ghosts would have come out instead of Infinite Warfare in 2016, I actually think Call of Duty Ghosts would have done much, much better. In 2016, people really wanted a back to basics Call of Duty game. They wanted a Call of Duty game that essentially was was playing it safe, and instead they got Infinite Warfare, which had all the advanced movement that fans were burnt out of by then. And if you put it in that context, I think you can appreciate how Call of Duty Ghosts at its core isn't actually that bad of a game. It has some interesting features, some interesting modes and map designs that stand out well enough on their own. It was just subject to a lot of extra scrutiny because of the time frame it was releasing in and the giant games it was competing against in 2013. In a way, it's kind of a shame that we never will probably see a Call of Duty Ghosts 2 in one way or another, just because I'm curious how the campaign would have gone and what that would have looked like, because the cliffhanger did kind of leave things on a really exciting note, but obviously things were just in a really weird time for the franchise, and I think Call of Duty Ghosts marked the end of the glory days for Call of Duty. And this was a time where Call of Duty typically was known for having a banger game that would compete against anything and win time after time again, and all of a sudden Call of Duty Ghosts was kind of this faltering title that didn't really bring too much new on the table, and unfortunately because of that, it gets deemed the worst in Call of Duty history. But I think if you've watched this far into the video, you probably would agree that there's been other Call of Duty games that have released that are much worse than Call of Duty Ghosts, and it really isn't the worst game in the franchise to ever release. It's fun to go back and look at Call of Duty titles years after they released and try to recapture not only the original experience that was there day one, but also look at the game as a whole and see what was available in this game as a mainstay gameplay source for so many people. Nonetheless, Call of Duty Ghosts remains as this interesting case of a standalone game that never was expanded upon again, that is often overlooked when talked about, but there was some special moments in there too, and I definitely think a lot of people can appreciate that. Now, we are really curious what your thoughts are on Call of Duty Ghosts, so if you want to leave your comments down below, we'll definitely check them out. Also, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on, as it turns out most of our audience is not subscribed to our channel. So if you want to help support us and not miss future content, here's your chance. Alright, that's it for today though. We'll see you guys all next time with a brand new video.